cameraman here. This one, thank you very much.
I just need this right here to be.
Yeah, I just have.
Live
I'm watching with you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm blessed. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're good. Thank you.
Okay with the way the media is? I don't like where the media is.
There's a box. Okay.
I don't like where they are, but they lost their seats. They gave up their seats. They're right there. Is that okay? You don't care?
I don't want that guy in the center because he's in your seat. You know,
Okay. Okay.
Folks, we're going to get started here in just about 5 minutes. If you aren't able to find a seat, there is an overflow room to the west of the building that has 3 large 40-foot screens. You'll be able to see from there just as well. You're welcome to make your way there, and we'll give you about 5 minutes, and then we'll get started. Thank you.
I can't find our live stream. Cleaver Town Hall.
So, you're asking about the whole box?
Oh, we don't have a whole box.
Okay. Are the speakers just overhead?
They're inside the building. The microphones are plugged up on the stage. I'm just worried that if you plug it in, will that interfere with the microphone?
I don't know. The only other options are, I guess, we have our microphones up there and we move them when each person talks, or we just hope we can capture some faint audio from the overhead speakers.
There's another option. I don't know how it's going to work. There is a speaker hooked up for audio in the other room, but it's going to be delayed from the video.
Yeah.
Can you ask one of your wireless guys if they can plug a wireless into the microphone? See where those two microphones are plugged up? Ask if they can plug a microphone, wireless mic. It has to be wireless. It cannot be cord.
Yeah, this is wireless right here.
Right. See if they can plug that into the same place where the microphone is plugged.
Where does that go back into? Where does that go back into?
That system is in the building.
Right, but those mics that are plugged in, where are those plugged into?
Right.
Behind the stage? Okay.
That's just
Habari zenu. Kama unahitaji utafsiri, unahitajika kuelekea kichumba ambacho kina sehemu ya kuingilia. Asanteni sana.
إذا كنت تحتاج إلى مترجم يتحدث العربية، رجاء الذهاب إلى الطاولة في الاستقبال للحصول على السماعة. شكرا.
Buenas tardes. Por favor, si ustedes necesitan un intérprete en español, vayan a la entrada para que les den, por favor, el aparato necesario para que puedan escuchar y participar en esta reunión. Muchísimas gracias por estar acá.
If anyone needs interpretation services, we have devices. They need to go to the table at the front door to get the devices for the language that you speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello, good afternoon, welcome. You know, it is a gorgeous Saturday afternoon, though a little chilly. Isn't it extraordinary that we would have a crowd like this come here on an issue of immigration and refugees, and not just in this room, an overflow room. We also have an overflow room. It's called Sprint Center. Okay, it's the cafeteria too that's also filled with people thirsting for information. The goal of this 2-hour session is really to get to you, your questions, your concerns, to lift up the hood on this process and to separate the fact from the fiction. My name is Nick Haynes of KCBT Public Television. I just want to move this along to get to your questions. There's 2 ways that we'll be getting to your questions. Some of those came directly to the Congressman's website. Secondly, we've been handing out cards. Now, you might not have gotten them as you came in, which you were asked to do. If you did not, you will see members of the Congressman's staff who are handing out cards and pencils. Put those questions out there. I'm going to get to as many of these as we possibly can. The goal is to get questions that have the most interest to everyone, and we're going to get to as many of those as we can. We've got an amazing group of panelists with us today. We'll also be hearing, because this is really about human stories, we'll also be hearing from some refugees as well during the course of our time together. Again, this is about you. But I want to hear, first of all, from the man who put this all together. He was the mayor of Kansas City for the past 12 years and has represented the place where you sit and stand in Washington for the past 12 years, Kansas City Congressman Emanuel Cleaver.
First of all, just so everybody would have some understanding, 2 weeks ago during a meeting of the Black-Brown Coalition, the BBC, a guy that I've known as a friend for 40 years started talking about DACA and the fear that he was seeing throughout the community. He was very passionate in what he said. He got everyone's attention. The meeting was at the Urban League. And so you can imagine how I felt when I received word just, I guess, yesterday morning that Gilbert Guerrero had just died. And Gilbert is the reason we're here. It was his voice. It was his voice, among others, but he was the leading voice asking that we do this. And we did, and I don't think it would be appropriate for us to go any further before acknowledging that fact. Now, the last 2 weeks seems as if they've been 2 decades. Things, well, I'm in Washington, and you think it. But one of the things that has caused me a great deal of anguish and pain is what Gilbert was saying. And Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, said over and over and over again during his campaign and since that he intended to repeal DACA. I have seen nor heard nothing that would cause me to believe that he will renege on this promise. I am absolutely convinced that he will do everything he said. People said, you know, don't believe the president, just believe that he's sincerely wanting to address things, that he will not do exactly what he says he was going to do. And so the reversal of DACA, in my estimation, sends a very clear signal to people all around the world that the United States has become insular. It says to people around the world that our nation is about the business of building bogus borders, things to separate people. Everybody in this room is an immigrant. The problem we have is that the Native Americans had some poor immigration policies. And so, as a result, we're here. And for someone to be audacious enough to say that they will spend precious time in Washington trying to prevent people from coming to the United States, adding to this culture, this great culture that we have. And it just makes the nation better. And I want to just make sure I'm clear. I will do everything that I can do to fight against DACA and to fight against other policies. We cannot afford to see a reversal of this executive order. And I am one of only 535 members of Congress that will be involved, hopefully, in a logical and sane development of an immigration policy. But if things are not going to be done fairly, then I will do what I can in my little spot of the world, and others will do what they can in their spot of the world, and then I think we can bring about change. To understand what I think your challenge is going to be, ours must be, is to understand this, my grandpa's favorite story that I had to hear about once a week growing up. During the days of slavery down in East Texas, where my family originated, the Confederate Army battalion is moving through this little slave village. And when the slaves heard that they were coming, they ran and hid, except for one single solitary black woman in her 70s. And she gets a broom, and she walks out in the middle of the street, and she stands there. And as the battalion approaches, the captain gives the order to halt. And he looks down at this little skinny black woman, and he starts laughing. He said, "Wench, do you think that you can stop slavery or even this war with that broom?" And she walks over to him with her broom and she hits him. And she said to him, "No, sir, I don't expect I can stop it, but I just want to let you know where I stand." My job is to make sure that the President of the United States understands where we stand. We stand for the to the people of the Trinidad community, immigrants, make America. They build America. They build America. We work together. This is where we stand. Folks, let him act a clown. Let's sit down.
We're looking forward to your questions, sir. We have cards and pencils to hear your questions.
We never want to act like people that we are challenging.
We heard a perspective from a congressman. Let's hear a perspective from an actual immigrant. You hear all the time about young illegal immigrants who come to the United States as children. Well, Robert Sagastumi was born in Honduras. His family brought him here when he was 2 years old in order to escape the civil war in that country. So worries about being deported have been a big part of his life long before now. Robert?
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate every one of you coming out here tonight or this evening to make sure that the undocumented community, Muslim community, and immigrant community as a whole know that we are here together to fight for a good cause. So thank you on that. Just to break the ice, I believe I have to just give you a little bit of background about my story. Like they mentioned, I was born in Honduras. I was brought here at the age of 12 years old with a visa. I overstayed my visa. I graduated from William Christian High School back in 2007, and I was ranked on the top 45 students. And I got a full ride scholarship for the UMKC School of Paralegal. However, because I was undocumented, and the state of Missouri has not been the friendliest state. It's actually one of the worst states to live. As an undocumented immigrant, we were banned. I was banned to get higher education in the state of Missouri. So what I had to do is I had to drive from a trip that would have only taken 15 minutes if I would have had documents all the way to Overland Park to the Johnson County Community College. I was able to take one class per semester, and it wasn't until 2014 that I graduated. At that moment, I was extremely happy because all the systems, all the individuals that had said to me that I could not achieve something that I wanted the most to make my mom proud, I did. And on that day, I remember my mother telling me that she was not going to be able to make it because during that period, she faced a stage 4 cancer. I remember that day being extremely sad because I had to work really hard for that reason. I had to put everything for that specific reason, and I already had in mind to walk the stage without seeing my mom. So I walked out the stage, and to my surprise, I saw my mother at the end of the aisle. She came to me and she said, "If you put up through so much all these years, I think I can put up at least for a few hours to be with you and see your dream come true." I'm no longer undocumented. I was able to adjust my status first through deferred action for childhood arrival back in 2012. I was already accomplishing a lot of things without deferred action. However, deferred action gave me a tool that I used to empower our community and empower individuals that were scared to come out and say, you know, we are here and we are here to stay because we're not going anywhere. We're not. I am very, very thankful for this space. We, a lot of times, don't get an opportunity to come here and become visible to our communities. I know that I am extremely privileged now that I'm a green card holder and I have a permanent residency. However, I would not have been able to do that without my husband, who was actually able to adjust my status through that process. My ask today for you, all of you, is to make sure that we are getting organized, that we are getting out into our community, and to make sure that our representatives are staying accountable to what they're promising us. Because we cannot walk back. That's all I have for you. Please make sure, like I said, stay in contact with everyone, stay alarmed, create safety plans for our community, and make sure there's also safe space for our undocumented Muslim, Black, and immigrant sisters and brothers. Thank you.
Robert, thank you so much. We heard a lot about refugees. Well, who are these refugees? Let's meet one. 6 months ago, Kalindo Nalakuli was a refugee from the Congo. She arrived here just 6 months ago into Kansas City with her family after spending 17 years in a refugee camp in Tanzania. She was resettled by Delalam Community Services here. Kalindo, that is a long time to wait.
Habari zenu.
How are you?
Naitwa Kilindo Nalukuli.
My name is Kilindo Nalukuli.
Natoka Tanzania, kambi ya wakimbizi.
From Tanzania refugee camp.
Nami nataka kushare na nyinyi historia yangu na maisha yanavyokuwa katika kambi za wakimbizi.
I want to share with you how life was in the camp, refugee camp.
Najua wote ambao mko hapa,
I know all of you who are here,
mnapenda kuishi maisha mazuri,
you love to live a good life,
na yenye kuridhisha,
and also which is peaceful.
Lakini katika kambi ya wakimbizi sio hivyo.
But in the refugee camp it's not like that.
Mimi na familia yangu,
I and my family,
tuliishi kambini kwa miaka 17.
we lived in the refugee camp for 17 years.
Nasi tulikuwa tunakula chakula cha aina moja tu.
And we were eating one kind of food.
Familia ya watu 8 tulilala kwenye chumba kimoja.
My 8 family members, we were living in one room.
Nasi hatukuweza kwenda shuleni.
And we were not able to go to school.
Kwa sababu mazingira yalikuwa magumu sana.
Because things were hard.
Kambini sio rahisi kuishi.
In the refugee camp, it's not easy to live.
Wamama wajawazito wanazalia nyumbani kwa sababu ya kukosa dawa.
The pregnant women, they give birth at home because they lack their kids.
Na watoto hawawezi kwenda shule.
And the kids can't go to school.
Hali ni ngumu sana.
Life is so hard.
Tulikuja hapa miezi 6 iliyopita.
We came here 6 months ago.
Tunafurahi sana kuja Marekani.
We are glad to be in America.
Kwa sababu tunatumaini,
because we are hoping that
kuna upendo,
there is love.
Tunajua kwamba tunaweza kwenda shuleni.
Because we know we will be able to go to school.
Na tunaweza kuwa na ndoto katika maisha.
And also we can have our dreams in our lives.
Lakini wale waliobaki kambini,
but the people who remained in the refugee camp,
wananiangalia mimi.
They are looking at me.
Sababu mimi najua wanavyoishi.
Because I know how they are living.
Hawana tumaini yoyote.
They have no hope at all.
Tunahitaji msaada wa kimwili.
As refugees, we need help.
Fikiria Wazazi wetu walienda kambini wakiwa vijana.
Imagine our parents went to the refugee camp when they were young.
Na sasa wamezeeka.
And now they are old.
Hawawezi tena kutusaidia.
They cannot help us at all.
Ni nani ambaye atawasaidia wakimbizi kama sio hii serikali ya Marekani?
Who is going to help the refugees if it's not American, the government?
Hakuna tumaini nyingine zaidi ya kusaidia serikali ya Marekani.
There is no hope apart from the American help.
Wasichana wadogo wanabakwa.
The young girls, they are sold.
Wanaishi na ukimwi.
They are living with AIDS.
Kwa sababu ya mazingira haiwahusu, wanabakwa na wananchi wanapokuwa wanataka kwenda kutafuta kuni.
And they are raped by the people who are when they are going to collect firewood.
Nao wana watoto wakiwa na miaka 12.
When they are 12 years old, they get pregnant and they get babies.
Wanateseka.
They are suffering.
Wananiuliza,
they are asking me,
je, watapata bahati nao ya kuja Marekani?
Will we be able to come to the US?
Ili waweze kutoka kwenye yale mateso wanayokula chakula kimoja, mlo mmoja kila siku.
So that they can leave the refugee camp where they live and eat one same meal every day.
Wananyanyaswa.
They are suffering.
Na nchi zetu hazina amani.
And our countries, they have no peace.
Wanahitaji kuja Marekani.
They desire to come to America.
Tunaomba serikali ya Marekani,
we ask the government of America,
waweze kutusaidia,
if they can help us,
watoto,
the children,
wamama,
the women,
ambao wanaendelea kuteseka kwenye kambi za watu,
who are suffering in the refugee camp.
Tunatumaini katika Marekani.
We have hope in the American.
Sisi ambao tumefika Marekani,
us who have already arrived in America,
tunaomba serikali iweze kutusaidia.
We are praying that the government may help us,
ili tuweze kupata uraia na tuweze kuishi,
that we be able to get citizenship and live in this country.
Iwasaidie ndugu zetu pia ambao
and also to help our brothers who remain behind.
Kuna tumaini.
We are hoping.
Ni moyo kwa moyo,
from heart to heart,
nafsi kwa nafsi,
soul to soul.
Tafadhali,
please,
tunaomba,
we pray,
serikali iweze kutusaidia.
the government will help us as refugees. Thank you.
Lots and lots of interesting parties are here, including, by the way, the Consul Navarro of the Mexican Consulate, who is with us. Consul?
Thank you very much. Thanks for your response, for your coming here today. Thanks to the leadership of Congressman Cleaver. I am thankful to be here, particularly to share with you and with the Mexican community and Hispanic community here some of the service that we are doing here as a consulate. So after these initial thank you words, if you allow me, address in Spanish, and I will try to make some brief comments in English as well. But again, thank you very much. I guess this is one of the greatest traditions of the United States, the town hall meetings, and particularly in order to convey information of members of the community living in this part of the country. So, entonces, muchas gracias al congresista Cleaver por su liderazgo y sobre todo por haber invitado al Consulado de México a esta actividad. Es importante para el Consulado de México en Kansas City celebrar y fortalecer este tipo de alianzas que nos permiten servir mejor a la comunidad mexicana y mexicano-americana que vive en esta zona del país. Hemos venido fortaleciendo nuestro trabajo en los últimos meses, sobre todo después de la elección de noviembre, para hacer el más importante mandato de todo consulado: promover la defensa y los derechos de los mexicanos que viven y trabajan en este país, particularmente en los estados de Missouri y de Kansas. El día de hoy, atendiendo la invitación de la oficina del congresista federal Cleaver, tenemos una mesa informativa para los miembros de la comunidad mexicana que nos acompañan. Estamos en la mejor disposición de sumarnos a los esfuerzos del propio congresista, de las autoridades locales, de las autoridades de Kansas City, de las iglesias, de cualquier denominación, para poder acercarnos a nuestra comunidad. La comunidad viene a los lugares donde se siente segura, las escuelas, las iglesias, los centros comunitarios, y el consulado estará sirviendo a su comunidad en esos lugares. Vamos a trabajar en el fortalecimiento, y de hecho estamos trabajando en el fortalecimiento y defensa de los derechos de las personas migrantes mexicanas, con el apoyo también de abogados que trabajan para el consulado y con organizaciones como la American Civil Liberties Union. México y los Estados Unidos podrán negociar y estarán entablando negociaciones seguramente en las próximas semanas sobre muchas cosas, pero lo que el gobierno de México y sus consulados en Estados Unidos no negociarán, porque no es negociable, es precisamente la promoción y la defensa de los derechos de los mexicanos que viven y trabajan en este país. Creo que vale la pena destacar que esta parte del país, el área metropolitana de Kansas City, tiene un gran valor, un gran activo para este país: su tolerancia, su diversidad, la actitud de bienvenida a las personas que vienen de otros países, de otras latitudes, a trabajar y a sumarse a esta comunidad tan vibrante. Eso es en lo que estamos empeñados, y vamos a seguir trabajando con los liderazgos locales de esta ciudad. Entonces, muchas gracias, y nosotros vamos a estar disponibles con una mesa informativa aquí afuera. Just a few words, in addition to what I mentioned at the beginning. Mexico and the United States will be able to negotiate many things in the coming weeks, but something that is not negotiable is the promotion and the defense of the rights of Mexican and Mexican Americans living here, particularly those migrant workers living and participating and making great contributions to the economy and the society of Kansas City and this metro area. I as a Mexican consul living here for the past 8 months, I've been able to cherish and to admire how tolerant, how welcoming, how diverse is this part of the country. This is a great asset in these times and in this moment. So just it's good to celebrate and also to build upon that great asset that you have in this region. So again, thank you very much for welcoming us here today, and we will have an information table in the hallway in order to provide information for those interested. If you have friends or some neighbor that is a Mexican national, that maybe he was or she was afraid to come here today, please convey this information to him and to her. Thank you very much, Congressman.
Consul, thank you very much indeed. Let's bring out the rest of our panel that we have this afternoon. It may take a little bit more encouragement from our audience. Our panel, could they come out? At the very end there on the left, on your left, is Steve Whitecamp, yes, Director of Refugee Programs for the Jewish Vocational Service Center for New Americans. That's the largest resettlement agency for refugees in Kansas City. Steve, that was 588 refugees last year?
Yeah, 588.
Yeah.
Okay, I should start by saying I'm a late substitute, so I don't have prepared remarks, so I think, if you don't mind, we'll risk my stream of consciousness. I will say, let me start by saying the obvious. This has been an unusual year. But it was unusual in a wonderful way until rather recently. The U.S. Refugee Admissions Program, it's a public-private partnership that dates from, you could say, the Refugee Act of 1980. But the Refugee Act of 1980 really just put in place a process that had already come to be in the aftermath of the Vietnam War, when the federal government went to the non-governmental sector and said, who wants to participate? We are going to throw a lifeline to our allies who fought with us in Vietnam. And thus began this public-private partnership. Despite the 1980 Refugee Act, it has the vibe of a one-year program that gets renewed year after year. And like a one-year program, it always starts in an atmosphere of uncertainty, and it seems as if the federal government spends the entire month of October and part of November getting the document signed and reminding themselves how this works. But this year was not that way. This year, under the previous administration, they raised the admissions ceiling from 85,000 to 110,000, and by God, they began the year as if they meant to do it. And we have never been on track to reach our projection in previous years. It's generally a phenomenon that occurs in the final quarter of the program year, which is the same as the federal fiscal year. So every July, August, and September, it seems that thanks to the feds, we reenact the evacuation of Saigon. This year, however, we began robustly, and indeed we were on track. Our projection for this year was 600 refugees. And at the end of January, 1/3 of the way into the year, we had 200 refugees. So it was a phenomenal start, which is now basically the taste of ashes in our mouths. I will say that the refugee program, in my opinion, is the most sustained humanitarian element of our foreign policy ever. It is the first... People who deeply study American history will be disconcerted by how it deviates from our national myth. And the fact of the matter is, I tell people that you want to know what's as American as apple pie? Xenophobia. And it rears its head almost every generation. And this last week, on the very day that this executive order was signed, which was Holocaust Remembrance Day, we remembered that in the 1930s, Jewish refugees were turned away. And in the aftermath of the Second World War, the UN High Commission on Refugees was created to begin an international approach to this persistent problem, although initially it was focused on refugees in Europe. This grew, and the U.S. began to enact ad hoc approaches to temporary problems. The 1956 Hungarian Revolution, the U.S. stepped up and began to accept Hungarians. The 1959 Cuban Revolution ultimately led to the Cuban Adjustment Act of 1966. All the while, the vast majority of refugees were languishing, unwelcomed in the countries they had fled to. It really took the end of the Vietnam War for our innate humanitarianism, let's call it, to be triggered. And this program was born.
Steve, thank you very much. We'll be hearing more from you as we go through the questions. Next to Steve is Sarah Baker, who's the legislative and Policy Director for American Civil Liberties Union of Missouri, the ACLU, of course. Most recently on the headlines, the filing suit in federal court to block the president's recent executive order on immigration. ACLU membership rose from 400,000 to more than 1 million since the election. Also $24 million in online donations since the executive order. So lots of interest in your organization of late, sir.
Thank you, everyone. It is heartening to see you here showing up. We appreciate you being present, and we appreciate you taking this issue to heart as we are at the ACLU. So, right after Trump's election, we posted an ad in the New York Times with the simple message, "We'll see you in court." So we've done that. As have many organizations across the country. It is true that right after the sort of refugee and immigrant ban was put into place, the ACLU scored a major victory in New York. That has since been affirmed by a court out in Seattle. I'm sure you heard about this. So we're at this moment where it looks like in some ways the executive order has been stopped, but we know that that's not fully the case. We know that the administration will appeal. We know that this fight is not over, and we expect you all to be with us as we soldier on. There's a lot of confusion right now, though, and I want to point to some of that because I am not a legal scholar. I'm the policy director at the ACLU, so my background in legal comes from our legal department. But one of the things that feeds right out of that is how much confusion there is about the law at the moment and how much the law can do to be a bulwark against the administration when it comes to immigration. We're relying very heavily on the First and 14th Amendment to make sure that everyone has a right to due process and equal protection under the law. We know that we have a nationwide ban guaranteed by federal judges, but we don't know what will happen to those people that were processed before the ban went into effect. We're still trying to figure that out. One way in which we're doing that is just this past week, the ACLU across the country, its 50 affiliates, gathered together and did a Freedom of Information request to all CPBs, so Customs and Border Patrol, to find out what's actually going on, because we have no idea. And if they're violating federal law, that's a problem, and again, we'll see them in court. We are also trying to mobilize our communities, and that's what you all are a big part of here, and I'm so glad to see you. We want to know if there are problems that are happening in your community. We want you to call the ACLU hotline. We want you to know that if you have to travel immediately, that there are some guidelines on our website to take with you so that the Customs and Border Patrol agent can't say, "I didn't know." You can say, "No, I have a piece of paper, see here." And we also want you to download our mobile justice app. So we think this is going to be incredibly important. As you go out into the streets and protest, as you try to help the immigrant community, as you are a member of the immigrant community, this will list out your rights when encountering law enforcement and allow you to record incidences and report those directly to the ACLU. We think that is extremely important going forward. I also want to bring this back from just a federal level to a local level. So right now in Jefferson City, the Missouri General Assembly is in session. They will be there until that's them, they're paging in.
Absolutely. This is not somebody from Jefferson City. This looks like somebody I've seen quite a lot on some of the cable and network news channels of late. This is Illinois Congressman Luis Gutierrez, who has represented the Chicago area in the U.S. Congress for the past 15 years. As I've seen you a lot on television, this is another way you're coming to us via television, but you could be a million places today. Why did you feel the need to beam into us in Kansas City this afternoon, Congressman?
Because Emanuel Cleaver, among the 435 members of the House, the 535 members of the Congress, is very special to me. And I know it's very special to me. There were many members of the Hispanic Congressional Caucus at a meeting this week, and I kind of said, I've been there before with Emanuel Cleaver to Kansas City. I've seen his interaction with the immigrant community, with the Latino community. And I wanted to take this special opportunity to say hi again to everybody, to all of the friends I made there that day, and all of the new friends I hope to make today.
Great. So you'll stay with us as we take some questions from our audience, right, Congressman? Because some of them are going to be very relevant to you. But I want to introduce, next to the Congressman Emanuel Cleaver, is Alma Acosta, who comes to us from Washington, D.C., where she serves as Executive Director of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. If you're not familiar with them, well, they've been kicking around since 1976, right, with the mission of voicing and advancing in Congress issues affecting Hispanics.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's so wonderful to have everyone here in the room. The caucus has 30 members. We grew this election, and my boss, Chairwoman Michelle Lujan Grisham, wished she could be here with you all, but she sent me in her place instead. So with the caucus, we are actively working and developing strategies of how we combat the president, these executive orders that he's issuing, the Republicans that are pushing legislation and policies later down this year to advance his discriminatory executive orders. And I'm so glad Congressman Gutierrez is here, because in our caucus we have a lot of leaders who have been leading on the immigration front and protecting our families, immigrant communities. And I will say a couple words in Spanish. Me llamo Alma Acosta, soy la directora ejecutiva del Congreso Hispano del Caucus, y nuestros miembros han sido líderes en defender familias hispanas y de inmigrantes. Entonces, gracias por tenernos aquí.
Thank you very much. Next to Alma is the Reverend Rick Behrens, pastor of a church in Kansas City, Kansas, with, in fact, so many Latino immigrant worshippers. Church services are bilingual. In addition, though, to being the spiritual leader of Grandview Park Presbyterian Church, he is actively engaged in advocates for immigrant rights and reconciliation, an interfaith advocacy group that works to educate the public in the church pews about the immigration system. People want to know about this in the church pews, Reverend Behrens?
Yes, they do, regardless of whatever the president may be saying. Otherwise, want to know about immigration and want to be educated, inspired, and organized around immigration. I was with a group of Presbyterians this morning, and Presbyterians don't get really excited or, about things very easily. But as I talked with them this morning about things that are going on and how they can be involved, they really got excited, and they almost, they almost raised their voices. But that brings me to this little piece of artwork that sits on our communion table at Grandview Park. And it says, Silencio no funciona, and Grita, and it's done by a local artist who may in fact be here today, Celia Ruiz. I hope she's out there in the crowd. We set this on our communion table, and the night of the election, the night after the election on Wednesday, we had a prayer meeting at the church, and people were in tears. But this sat on our communion table nonetheless, and stared us back in the face, and it stared back at us every Sunday since. And we know that we can't be silent, and that we've got to shout. We've got to scream, we've got to make our voices heard, but we've also got to act, and that's where Advocates for Immigrant Rights and Reconciliation offers a wide range of activities, ways to get involved, and I could share all those right now, but I know our time is limited, but you could go to AIR's Facebook page and learn things that are going on, and we can connect that way.
Thank you very much. You've heard from the panel tons and tons of questions. I'm going to tell you, though, if there was one issue more than anything else we hear about, and if I condense them all together, it's about sanctuary cities. Elizabeth sort of condenses many of them when she writes, what would it take for Kansas City to become a sanctuary city? And what kind of practical protections do sanctuary cities offer immigrants? Congressman Gutierrez, I do know there are 39 cities in the country that are called sanctuary cities, and you represent Chicago, and that's considered one of them. So what does that mean? Does that mean the police turn a blind eye to issues when there are crimes committed by people who are illegal immigrants?
Here's what it means. The most important tool, I believe, that the police have in keeping us all safe and being able to serve and protect the people is that trust of the public. The trust that the public has in them, that their foremost goal is to keep them safe. That they trust them, so they'll call them, they'll talk to them, they'll cooperate with them, and they'll inform and work with the police. I think that collaboration is essential to the safety of the community. We have mixed communities. And by mixed communities, it means that a Colombian meets a Mexican and gets married. What it means is that we have communities in which people are documented and undocumented, but when they sit in church pews on Sunday, when they go to school, they're not segregated. Oh, they're not segregated when they go to the schoolyard or to shop. We are one community that lives and prays and shops and works together. So the Chicago police are not immigration agents. Chicago police's job is to keep people safe and secure. And it seems to me, follow the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution. If the federal government wants somebody, they should go to court and get a warrant for that person. And the city of Chicago will respect that warrant issued in court for someone. But it is not the job of the city of Chicago to act as an immigration agent given a broken immigration system. Let me explain. The federal government believes that a mother that is deported and returns back to her children across that border is a felon, and that that person is a felon on the loose and should be arrested, put to jail, and then re-deported once again. You know what I see? I see a mother that loves her children. I see a mother that, because of our broken immigration system, cannot be there to care for children, to raise her children, to love her children. And children are the millions American citizens, yes. There are nearly 6 million American citizen children whose parents are undocumented. Tens of thousands of them have been deported. They have returned. They are not felons. They are moms. They are dads. They are people whose example we should follow. Somebody driving to take their child to a doctor without a driver's license is not a criminal. Okay. Yet, our immigration system, yet our federal government wants local police to act as immigration agent when that dad or that mom takes that child to school and drives to work. No, there are people that are in our community until our broken immigration system is fixed. Cities like Chicago are going to protect them. We're going to give them IDs for when they're sick, they can visit our local hospital. So when they need assistance, they can visit the local social centers.
Okay. Thank you, Congressman. But let me ask you this question.
I'm very proud to say, whether you're documented or undocumented, if you graduate from our high schools, you can go to any city college in the city of Chicago for the first 2 years. High school. So we're going to continue to do
Congressman?
that. Protect our dreamers.
Yes. Congressman, thank you. You are fired up about this issue. I know that. I know you're fired up about this issue. And you know, a lot of these questions about how do we make Kansas City a sanctuary city, but in a sense, I've seen interviews with the former police chief of Kansas City that said, well, we're not asking our police officers to check on immigration status, Steve, for when people are pulled over and they don't have perhaps the right documentation, or there may be reasons to believe they may not be in the country legally.
Look, I will tell you something.
No, I'm asking another question to somebody else, Congressman. Thank you.
You know, I'm no authority on this.
Okay, how about Sarah? Thanks for your candor, though, Steve. I want to move it along.
Well, I wouldn't say anyone's really an authority on this right now because there's lots, again, confusion. So in 2009, though, Missouri did take the move of creating a state statute that would prohibit funding going to cities who do become sanctuary cities in the state of Missouri. So we have something additionally problematic on our plates if Kansas City were to try to become a sanctuary city in addition to possible federal loss of funding. It depends, though, also how you define sanctuary city. So there's not, I don't think, much more to say than that. There are definitely actions that we can take to make our community more welcoming. There are ways in which we could make our city ID more useful to immigrant communities and undocumented communities. In terms of sanctuary city, though, that's when we're going to have to study very closely and acknowledge the political ramifications as well.
Laurie wants to know, what is the best way for us as citizens to respond if we don't agree with the executive order on immigration, if we've already called our congressman, if we've already called our senator to say we're opposed to it, what next? Who's got an answer to that question? I know the congressman from Illinois does, but he's not in Kansas City, so let's have somebody else. He's waiting, yes. Congressman Cleaver.
Well, look, the whole deal is what I talked about earlier. There are some things that we should not promise because we cannot deliver. However, I think that every person has the right to resist. And when I say resist, it means coming to forums, making sure that people have a clear picture of what we're talking about. You see the two people we brought before you a few minutes ago, one refugee, one DACA, and making sure that we get information out to everyone, and then everybody here needs to participate. Look, failure is not a disgrace. Failure is to do nothing in the face of wrong. And so, but your job is not to shut up. Just do not shut up.
Any other perspectives from our panel on that question? Okay, I'm moving on.
I would like to make a statement, please.
You could write it down, and I'll be happy to give you the statement, sir. Write it down, I'll be happy to take it. Barbara wants to know.
Be quiet.
Thank you.
I would like to make a statement.
Thank you. She calls us a refugee who comes to Kansas City.
What's going on? Let me explain to you. What it's like to be undocumented. In the state of Missouri. We must talk about federal policies. For reasons our lives have been difficult. For nearly 10 years. It's because of our local policies. If you are undocumented. If you get pulled over. Or even traffic violations. You worry that we'll be detained. And processed to ICE. If you are undocumented.
Okay, sir. Well, thank you. We've really enjoyed that. You're disrupting us for hundreds and hundreds of people. Thank you. Well, we've had enough of that. Thank you. Thank you, sir. We've heard you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Enjoyed it very much. Very much enjoyed it. Thank you. If everybody did that, we would have no forum or town hall whatsoever. Thank you. Appreciate you coming. If you do have a question, put it on the note card. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Okay, let's keep going, please. Thank you. Alrighty, we had another question then from Barbara who had asked, how long on average does it take to process a refugee who comes to Kansas City? What security vetting do they go through? Steve, you're somebody who's on the front lines of actually doing this. What does it actually take?
Well, I'm not on the front lines of vetting, but vetting is a process that has been in existence since the inception of the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program and has been steadily enhanced and tightened, most notably after the...
Steve. So we were asking, somebody took the time to actually write something on a card because they believed that rules mattered, and they followed the procedures and said, let's ask a question the way we said. And they want to know how long it took to go through the process when you bring in refugees, and what vetting do they go through when they come to Kansas City.
Okay, I'm going to say something that may cause smoke to come out of people's ears, but there's actually a pretty good summary created by an analyst with the Heritage Foundation in December of 2015 about the vetting. But as I was saying, vetting has always been part of this process. It was, in the early days, less sophisticated and less electronic, but it has been steadily tightened and enhanced. I think everyone has heard repetitively that refugees are the most vetted immigrants to the United States. It's absolutely true. There was a re-examination of the process, and some new procedures were put in place after the mythical Bowling Green massacre. And it continues. I could go on and on, Nick, but
But what is the average time of the clients who come to Kansas City, the refugees who come to Kansas City, from the time they're making an application to actually coming here?
I don't think there is an average. It is measured in years, however.
Okay.
It's over 2 years.
Okay. You're probably still confused, our friend in Chicago, about what was just happening here. But this is what sometimes happens in Kansas City, but it's all under control. So please feel good about that. But there's a question for you, Congressman. Should naturalized citizens, this is coming from the floor, should naturalized citizens be concerned about traveling abroad, traveling to countries on one of the banned list countries?
Sure. Number one, let's make clear that 7 countries, Middle Eastern countries, majority Muslim countries, that there is a ban against is immoral, wrong, and it is something that we will continue to fight. Thank the federal judges that have said no, that this is unconstitutional and un-American. We will continue to fight in the court. The only thing those 7 countries have in common is that they don't have Donald Trump golf courses on them. They don't have naturalized citizen of the United States, I say thank you for taking the right step to protect yourself and to protect your family. Moreover, if you are a legal permanent resident, we saw what happened last Saturday. Legal permanent residents returning even with their American citizen spouses, wives or husbands, and American citizen children were denied entry into the United States. Under executive orders that are being formulated at the White House, if you are a legal permanent resident, working, paying taxes, sweating employees, but a legal permanent resident in this country, they are going to make new tests to take you from your legal status and make you undocumented if you should be gaining benefits from any means-tested program at the federal government. What does that mean? That means the Pell Grant. That means food stamps. That means a Section 8 certificate. They won't raise the minimum wage from $7.25 an hour, but they want to deny permanent residents of the United States the ability to access those kinds of services for their health and their food. So here's what I have to say. If you are a legal permanent resident of the United States, join the resistance. You are 8 million strong who today
just kicked out the resistance with police. They're the only brown people who have anything to say, and you kicked them all out.
Thank you.
She's
Thank you.
You kicked out all brown people.
Thank you.
You kicked out every damn brown person in this room with the police.
We are trying to get informed. Can you let them inform us?
Well, the only
Thank you. Miss, why don't you write your question or comment on a card? Can you follow the rules that we asked at the beginning of this forum? Thank you. Thank you. Did anybody else have a comment on that question? Thank you, Miss. Thank you. If everybody did that, we wouldn't have a town hall at all. Thank you. Thank you. You have the same, you can do a card. Thank you. All righty, let's go to another question. Somebody else who is here, like somebody probably sitting right next to you who's been waiting to ask this question, miss. I'm here with my 3 kids and my wife, she's in Libya. How could I get her here with us? She has a valid visa and went to visit her family.
Just as I hate to, the ban has been lifted. If you have a visa from one of the 7 countries, Libya being amongst them, your visa is now good again. Thanks to the action of the Attorney General, offices of 17 states, starting with the state of Washington. They have procured an order, and today, the Department of Homeland Security has stated that they are required that they have to suspend all 9 of those visas for entry to the United States of America. I thank everybody that went to the airport last Saturday and stood up for immigrants, because today you have achieved the victory. Today, those people from those other countries can come to the United States.
Daniel wants to know how are county and city law enforcement being trained to respond to the latest federal immigration orders, are they?
So that's something we're really worried about, and that's why we're trying to get more information from Customs and Border Patrol about what they're actually doing. So as the Congressman pointed out, enforcing this executive order now is against the law. You should not be doing that. Customs and Border Patrol should not be doing that. We need to make sure they're not doing that, and that's why we have to get more information from Customs and Border Patrol about what they're actually doing. To the question of getting someone in the country who does have a legal visa, I would advocate that that person should also take information with them to the Customs and Border Patrol agents so that they know their rights, and so that the Customs and Border Patrol agent also knows that they know their rights.
Did anybody else have a response to that question? Okay. I am a volunteer, says Sarah, who is here at a local women's shelter that also provides clothing and a food pantry. I have heard rumors that immigrants who use government services can be deported. Is that true?
They're going to try. They're not only going to try for undocumented immigrants in this country to be deported under that rationale, but they're going to try for legal permanent residents to be able, for the government to be able to take away their legal permanent status. We're talking about green card holders. So let me just reiterate once again. If you are in America, this is your country. Go and become a citizen. Don't renew your legal permanent residence again. Guess what? Get the upgrade, $150, and become an American citizen.
I will say that last week we did see a leaked draft of an executive order that is being circulated among the Trump administration that would say that if immigrant families that are undocumented that are on public programs like CHIP or Medicaid, that they could be subject to denial and removal. This is just a draft executive order. Nothing has been signed. But I want to make sure that everyone has accurate information. Nothing has been signed. It's just circulating. And of course, the advocacy groups are looking into it and trying to analyze it. And the Congressional Hispanic Caucus is on top of it, trying to see how we're going to strategize to protect our immigrant families from this type of damaging policies.
Another question from our audience. It's been 12 years since my husband was deported. Our now 14-year-old son has been deprived of father his entire life. What has been done? What are we going to do to reunite families like ours?
We're going to pass comprehensive immigration reform. We passed it in the Senate. There are the votes that exist today in the House of Representatives. Our immigration system is broken. It is destroying families across America. What we need to do is have an immigration system that allows people to come here with a visa and not a coyote, that allows people to stay, to register. We have 750,000 dreamers who went through a background check, who today are doctors in hospitals, teachers in the classroom. They're nurses, they're engineers. They are part of our community. They're working, they're sweating, and they're toiling, and we haven't had one problem, not one problem. Let us integrate now their moms and their dads. They have shown us the pathway forward. Allow the other 11 million to do exactly what the Dreamers have done. Get right with the law, get a work permit, and work, and become part of the solution, and stop accusing them of being a detriment to America. They're not. They are Americans and everything but a piece of paper, and everybody in that room in Kansas City, let's work for the
So that question is really about, we're talking about comprehensive immigration reform, but the other question here, Congressman Cleaver, is what does Congressman Cleaver plan to do to get a more comprehensive immigration policy passed through Congress?
Well, I appreciate that question. And one of the things that President Trump has unintentionally done is created the atmosphere for a civics class, because everybody now wants to know what can happen and what cannot happen. What my colleague just mentioned, and maybe you've missed it, if a comprehensive immigration bill is brought to the floor of the United States House, it will pass. Now, so it's important for you to understand that that's why they won't bring it to the floor. And there's only one human being, it's not the president, can bring a matter to the floor. It is the Speaker of the House. And look, what they know is that if they bring it to the floor, it's going to pass, and they are afraid that, I mean, they'll be afraid to vote against it because of you. And so we know that it will pass. It would have passed during the last session of Congress. And so the pressure, I mean, I got a letter guy asking me to be against Jeff Sessions. I mean, this is like, asking me if to be against an alligator. I mean, of course I'm going to be against Jeff Sessions. But members of the House don't vote on confirmation. It's in the Senate. And all of the people I know are going to vote against it, but they're in the minority.
I just spoke about to say a couple of things. In the House of Representatives, there's no more steadfast friend of the immigrant community, Congressman Cleaver, number one. Every member of the Black Congressional Caucus under his leadership has endorsed comprehensive immigration reform, has voted for the DREAM Act when it came up. They are our stalwart allies in terms of the Congress of the United States. We understand that Black lives matter because had not been burned down, had there not been a civil rights movement led by the African American community, we would have never passed the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act in the 60s. That Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act gave Latinos due rights in this country. The reason I'm a member of Congress contributed so much to social justice in our country.
Thank you. What response, if any, has been made by area business leaders, institutions to promote the benefits of hiring refugees and immigrants? And if there has not been, what will you or can we do together to influence that? Rick Behrens? I mean, you're certainly doing it in the pews, but what is actually happening?
Right, well, across Kansas and communities in Missouri as well, we have communities that have issued welcoming proclamations. It's a small start, but it's a beginning. Different cities and municipalities have done this to encourage communities to welcome businesses, to welcome people, entrepreneurs. Across Missouri, there is a great effort coming out of St. Louis encouraging businesses to bring immigrants into their constituencies. So it's happening. There needs to be more of it. If you look at Central Avenue in Kansas City, Kansas, you have a microcosm picture of what can happen to a community when it's revitalized by first-generation immigrants. Central Avenue was going to be a ghost town by the year 2000, but that didn't happen. It was totally revitalized by immigrant businesses, and if we can't make the moral argument for immigration reform, surely we can make the economic argument.
Anybody else with a response to that question? This is about the role of businesses and non-profits and other institutions in hiring refugees and immigrants. You actually did have a business side of JVS, Jewish Vocational Services, that used refugees to in a work capacity, right, Steve?
Actually, it was people with disability.
Okay.
That was our other thing. But as far as businesses in the city, in the area, throughout the region, they've been great in hiring refugees. The fact of the matter is that refugees are employable. They are legally employable. I must say that one of the things that continues to mystify me about the attitude of the governor of Kansas, as articulated in his executive orders, is that Kansas is not a large refugee resettlement state, but it has a lot of refugees who migrate to Kansas for work. And the southwest quadrant of Kansas, where all the meatpacking is full of people who entered as refugees, hence legally employable. And I would think that those industries have built a dependency on that workforce. Why those industries have so little clout in Topeka, it mystifies me.
And at the national level, Starbucks did say it was going to announce 10,000 refugees over the next 5 years worldwide, so that's an example of a corporation that's stepping up.
Let me just say, I look forward to joining you once again, as I did a couple of years ago in Kansas City. I would just like to add to that, yes, one of the ways we can help support our community is by marching, by registering to vote. 1 million Latinos turn 18 every year in America, and they're all citizens. We need to get them registered. 8 million permanent residents of the United States. We need to help them become citizens. But the other thing we need to do is we need to use our dollars. Every day when we open up our wallet, let's go to Starbucks and let's say thank you for hiring 10,000 refugees. And let's say yes tonight. You know what I took this morning? I didn't take Uber. I took Lyft when I went down. I'm going to look at all of those wonderful laughs. I have a Ford. Guess what I'm doing the next time when I trade that car in? I'm buying another Ford, because Ford is tough when it comes to standing up for the community. Who are your friends and your allies every single day? Don't give money to people that are going to take your money and invade and invest it in hate, in discrimination, and in bigotry. Give it to people.
Thank you. He was that emphatic about it. I said at the beginning that sanctuary cities was a very common theme, something the Congressman touched upon earlier. Here's the other sort of common theme, and it's this question. Why isn't Russia on the list? The Boston Marathon bombers were from Russia. Most of the 9/11 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia. Why are they not on the list? Congressman Cleaver?
Well, actually, you know, there was two firebombs were thrown into my office, and they were from none of those countries. In fact, they lived about 12 blocks from here. So the point I'm making is when you look at the terrorist acts in the United States, almost all of them were committed by people who were born in the United States. but it's so easy to turn people against strangers. It's easy to turn people against those who don't look like them and who don't speak like them. And so this was easy, you know, to get people riled up. Everybody understand that those 7 countries, none of the hijackers for 9/11 are from any of those places. But it's easier to get people to just, I mean, this is a rainbow, this is America, those of us in here. But understand that if you really want to get somebody to dislike somebody, find out some things that are different about that person, and then sell that. And that's what's happening to us right now. But you know, look, we're stronger when we're together. And this is what I'm suggesting we do. Let's stay together.
Danielle wants to know, is it illegal to ban all refugees from entering the United States, particularly when they've already completed the vetting process? Sarah.
Thank you. So, as I pointed out before, we brought these constitutional challenges under the First Amendment, which wouldn't allow for the establishment of a religion, so you cannot show a preference in religion for people that you are bringing to this country, and under the 14th, which requires equal protection for all under the law. There's also international law at play here, which definitely weighs into our refugee policy as well. The executive does have broad discretion. This is something that we're trying to nail down in federal court, what can and cannot be done, but there are definite constitutional arguments that we can make against this sort of executive order.
Are you going to address a similar executive order, says Maricel, signed by President Obama in relation to Cuban refugees? Many are stranded today in third countries because President Obama, with a stroke of a pen one afternoon, changed a 20-year-old policy. We Cubans in the area would like to see you address that issue as well.
Were the Cubans are impacted by the executive order?
During President Obama's administration, where he changed the policy when it came to people coming from Cuba.
What President Obama did in an executive order, actually it did not block it. One of the misconceptions is that it stopped the embargo. It did not. The problem right now is that there is no policy. I mean, unless I missed something, the policy from that the president signed, the executive order, you know, had to do with a couple of things. One, American Airlines, and I think some other airlines by now, flying back and forth into Cuba. And even though he didn't do it, the real problem with going to Cuba in terms of legality was enforced by the Treasury Department, which was that you cannot spend money. If you spend $1 in Cuba, you were violating federal law, so you could have been prosecuted. So the real deal was that when the president allowed for back and forth in terms of some travel, it was not designed to stop the embargo, which means then anything could go. I mean, you go there and they could come here and so forth, but that was not a part of it. And of course, Mr. Trump has said he's going to repeal that executive order as well. I've been over to Cuba twice. I had the rare opportunity of spending 1 year, one night with Mr. Castro, who was an amazing talker. But you can't, I mean, you can go to Cuba now, and you can come back to Cuba. The Cubans are going to be vetted heavily, you know, as you're trying to come back and forth. But that pretty much is going to change, I would imagine, in the next month or so.
You know, I think that was referring to the wet foot, dry foot rule. And leaving vetting aside, because that never involved pre-arrival vetting, I would think there is the potential for those Cubans, and my understanding is people were departing Cuba in anticipation of something like this happening on January 20th, and many had planned to be in Texas by the 19th, and maybe felt a little bit betrayed. So I think that there is probably a possibility of petitioning for asylum at the border. But asylum is an uncertain prospect. The result is that those who succeed may be asylees. They will not be refugees. It's a distinction without a whole lot of difference, but the difference can be important.
Another questioner wants to know how many terrorist acts have been committed in the United States since 9/11 by refugees?
0.
In addition to calling your office, who should I be calling to make my voice heard in Washington?
Look, don't call me. I'm already. I like talking and so forth, but I'm already here. I've already voted on every piece of legislation that had anything to do with immigration reform. I'm going to continue to do it. So what you do is you call the people who are opposed to us. And I don't want to get partisan, but the two people in the state who are supporting all of these things that you're saying you want are Emanuel Cleaver in Kansas City and Lacey Clay in St. Louis. So, I mean, you can call me, and I like to talk and talk about the chief and so forth, but you don't have to lobby me on something I'm already going to do and something I'm already for. You call the people who are not supporting it.
And if I can just add to that, it's not just federal. So yes, immigration is a large federal issue, but we in Missouri have something to be concerned about too, with the same General Assembly that gave you the prohibition on sanctuary cities and pulled funding away from those types of efforts. So if you're looking for a place to also call and also show up, come to Jeff City. I just testified on an immigration bill last week. There are going to be more that come out throughout the session. So this is an action that can go local too, and don't forget that.
Well, talking about local then, this one, it goes very much at the heart of local. Rumours of local police harassing foreign nationals. What is the city's policy in regards to this, and what safeguards have been put in place? A lot of people come to the ACLU when they have concerns. What are you hearing about that issue?
So we do have people who file complaints, and you can, if you experience that, please file a complaint through our website or use the Mobile Justice app. We, since the executive order, I don't know that we've experienced necessarily an uptake in complaints about police harassment, but that is something that we definitely get as well, and those are processed through the ACLU. Actions that I would encourage you to take, the first is know your rights. Know what to do when you're interacting with law enforcement, and know when your rights are being violated and when you should file a complaint, and then we file a court case, and it's, again, we'll see you in court. So in terms of those local actions, we want to know about those because some of those are likely unconstitutional or against the law in Missouri too, and we need to make sure that we're very aware.
On the same front, who is monitoring bias of Muslim-sounding names on the local level?
Say I don't know the answer to that question. Anyone else?
Well, the city has a human relations department that does investigate those claims, and I think that, I've had people that walk into my office. A gentleman said he was denied a job because once he let the people know his name was Mohammed instead of Marshall, which is what he was using at first, just to try to get in, that he was denied. And we know it all. Everybody in here knows understands that those things happen. And I think that, I would go to civil rights organizations. I would go to La Raza here in Kansas City. I would go to the NAACP, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, or ministers. I think people are going to stand up more than we've seen in the last 25 years right now.
Have your Republican colleagues ever read Matthew 25? If so, how do they justify this ban? Before you answer that, Reverend Darren says we have two pastors. What is Matthew 25?
Matthew 25 is the separation of the sheep from the goats, when Jesus says, I will put the sheep on my, I don't remember, left or right hand. Because you, when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was thirsty, you gave me drink. When I was naked in prison, you clothed me. And when I was a stranger, you opened your arms and embraced me and welcomed me.
All right, so now we're going to understand what that is that available in the halls of Congress, Emanuel Cleaver, and did your Republican colleagues, as the questioner asks, ever read it?
Well, it's been there for about 2,000 years. It's not like it was just written, but I think people with great intentionality avoid what I think is one of the most profound chapters in either the Hebrew or the Christian Testament. And it is what we like to share quite often. And I think some people, unfortunately, go to the Bible as if it's a buffet, where you pick and choose what you would like to remember and regurgitate.
I'd like to add that I think there's a potential joke in 2 Corinthians arrive at JFK. One of them has a green guard.
Is the president's executive order binding, even if it's unconstitutional? Sarah.
So the executive order has been stopped by a federal judge in Seattle as well as in New York. So the courts will decide if it's binding or not, and they have said it is unconstitutional nationwide. And I think for right now, that's a period. There'll be an appeal, but we still expect that the constitutional arguments will win out.
However, I do think that in a normal circumstance, we would want this to happen. That is, the case, the Justice Department under Mr. Trump is going to continue to appeal, which means that this, in all probability, is going to show up right across the street from where I live, which is at the Supreme Court in Washington. And that's why Supreme Court justices are so important. And so that's where it's ultimately going to be set up. One thing I want to say, look, executive orders are not new. Roosevelt did about 3,000. And they can be good and bad. For African Americans, many African Americans don't realize this, the Emancipation Proclamation was not a vote in Congress. Lincoln signed an executive order that was called the Emancipation Proclamation. And then the internment of Japanese was also an executive order on the bad side, and so they can go good and bad. And we are responding now to something that was good in favor of somebody coming in doing something bad.
And this goes back to this then, just because something shows up in an executive order doesn't mean it'll become reality. So for all of the words and the horror that some people feel, Sarah, doesn't mean any of this will actually go into effect.
Well, in regards to this one, we do know that it went into effect. We do know that 60,000 people at a minimum were affected by this. I think there is immediate, and this is what the court in Seattle said, there's immediate and irreparable harm caused by this executive order. So words do matter. We are taking the Trump administration at their words, and in this regard, we think that they are unconstitutional and cannot be binding for that reason.
So Steve, on a practical level, what impact has it had on your agency at this moment in time? Other than you hear on both sides, some people relieved, feeling the country is more secure, others more panicked and fearful. But on a practical level, what difference has it made to you?
Well, practically speaking, we had 8 cases that were booked for February arrivals. I believe we were trending towards many more. That's 41 people who were stopped. Their bookings were canceled. They're stuck. Some of them in Kenya, some of them in Thailand, some Iraqis, some Sudanese. And this process is uncertain. There is an earlier question about having cleared the vetting, can't you come? The actual threshold is at that port of entry. So you've got to pass the Customs and Border Patrol and get that stamp. Now normally it's an automatic process, but until you're admitted to the country, which only happens in the country, nothing is secure. Now going forward, I think that it's not an exaggeration to say that although this is not quite the death of the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program, it pretty nearly is. The fact is that when we resume resettling refugees, presumably late May, early June. The ceiling has been brought down to 50,000 from 110,000. As I alluded to earlier, we had a very robust start, so 30-some-odd thousand people are already admitted for this program year. So there's not going to be many spots left once we resume. We can presume that going forward, this administration will set the ceiling at 50,000 going forward. It will destroy the networks that have built up to resettle a growing number of refugees, which is still a minute fraction of refugees in the world. Permanent resettlement is the least available of the UNHCR's durable solutions. A minute fraction really gets the chance to start new lives.
And Rick Behrens, I mean, as a voice of God, is he still there? The congressman from Chicago is still there? No? Who was that? Somebody's changing, okay. Somebody in the audience already. Rick Behrens, as a clergyman with a very diverse congregation, you know, we hear lots of words spoken, but I mean, has it had any real practical effect on anybody in your own congregation?
Well, yes, and not just recently, but you know, we've had deportations going on for.
But that occurred during the Obama administration.
Yes. We all know that there were a lot of deportations during the Obama administration, and the disturbing thing is that President Trump claims that he's going to deport 3 million criminals out of a population of 11 million undocumented immigrants. So we all know that that number is not possible. There are 2.5 million in our entire prison system of criminals, and if there are 3 million out of 11 million undocumented people who are criminals, then we know that's wrong. So the important thing is what you ask is that people are afraid. People are always afraid, and that's where we are. And they're getting more afraid, and some of them are making plans to leave our community, and they have revived our community. And this is this is the real crime. That good, hardworking people are afraid to build their families, to build their businesses, to build the community, to come and be part of things, and it's terrible.
Okay, I want to give each of you a final thought here before we depart this place today. Steve Whitecamp, some final words of wisdom from you?
Well, I think you're asking how do we change that refugee admissions cap, is that right? And, you know, that is set in the 1980 Refugee Act. It's a ceiling and not a floor. But it can be adjusted in times of emergency, and there's been a time of emergency every year. And so 50,000, I don't know if that's ever actually been the admission ceiling going forward. And it is a ceiling, so he can direct his department of the government, the executive branch, to keep it way under 50,000. I think the only way to change it is legislatively, and that has not been a very promising route.
Okay, I just saw a last question on that, but so Congressman Cleaver, when it comes to that cap, so if the President says we want refugees capped at 50,000, is that something that the President can do as an executive order, or is that something that Congress is involved in setting?
Constitutionally, it is a very, very difficult point because the President does have broad authority on matters of immigration, and unfortunately, I mean, heretofore that hasn't been a big problem, but now it is. And so the battles that are going to be in court is over, you know, not whether the President has authority on immigration matters, but how far the President can go. Now, there are some of my colleagues in the House who are concerned about the direction, and they are Republicans. And we don't have time to go into why they're afraid to say anything, but there are those who are saying on a complex immigration issue like one that has been stirred by the president, should be a matter of legislation. Should go from the House to the Senate and get the president's signature. That's how things are normally done. And I think that eventually some people on the other side are going to start demanding it, because every time a president does this, it weakens the legislative body, and so we're supposed to have equal branches. This reduces the strength of the legislative body.
Final word from you.
My final word, can I just say one thing, and I'll do it quickly, because I don't think people realize this, because it's not been much on the news, that we have to be concerned about, and this is why we can't be silent. A part of the president's order that causes me the greatest amount of concern and wakes me up in the middle of the night is that he directed the Department of Homeland Security to hire 10,000 new ICE officers to conduct enforcement and removal. Now, I don't think that that's going to be something that the courts can reverse. So just think about this. 10,000 people walking around the United States whose job it is every morning to wake up and enforce and remove people.
Well, I want to say that having an engaged public and community like you all is going to be very critical in protecting our immigrant families and refugees, because in Congress there's only so much that we can do legislatively. We really need our communities to stand up for each other and to voice their concerns and to demand, and the ACLU and everyone really need to link arms at this moment, because we're in a chaotic period. So I want to thank everyone for being so engaged, and continue calling us, continue making calls to your senators, to your congressmen, and your community, your advocacy groups, because we all need to fight this together.
Sarah Baker of the ACLU.
So I want to say we've had some victories in this period since the Trump executive orders. Even hours before we came to this event, the Secretary of State's office and the Department of Homeland Security said that they aren't going to enforce these, and we've had a win in federal courts. I don't want anyone to become at all complacent because of that. It doesn't seem like a reminder that needs to come to this room, but stay vigilant. The courts are here to try to make sure that the law is upheld, that the Constitution is upheld, but this is something that we all have to remain vigilant to do. There are 225,000 immigrants in the state of Missouri. It is time that we show up and protect them as well in our state capital and sign on to letters of solidarity and every action we can take to make sure that your voices are heard.
Thank you. Reverend Victoria.
Yes, I'd just like to piggyback on Alma's comments. You know, there's a lot of work to be done. And there are many groups that are working together here in Kansas City to get that work done. Hispanic Development Fund is bringing together all of the stakeholders to do the hard work, like creating rapid response teams with a legal team, with a media team, and a family support team, and an on-the-ground team. We got to help people develop family plans, and we need churches to step up and be sanctuary churches. And all of that work is going to take all of you and all of us working together, and I just want to say thank you to KS Moda, the young people who came in here today, because those dreamers, over the last 5, 6, 7 years, those dreamers and dreamers across the country have done more to move this conversation than anybody else, and if you see them on the way out, don't snub your nose at them. Thank them for their hard work. They're part of the family, and they do great things.
Thank you very much. I'm snubbing my nose at no one, but I'd like to thank the 99.9% of you who followed the rules that we had today, listened attentively to what was being said, and I very much appreciate you, not just in this room, but in a massive overflow room in the cafeteria at this school. We're going to get some final remarks now from the Reverend Cleaver, who will conclude this afternoon for us.
Thank you, Nate, for emceeing this. And thank all of you for being here. Look, you know, we wondered if there was going to be some kind of a disruption. But the thing I hope all of us remember is that that's not the kind of thing we do. Every time, when the Oakland situation happened the other night, it was the night that I didn't sleep well, because we can't afford to do that. We are walking on the moral high ground. Our cause is just and right, and we've got to continue to do it. and do it in the right way. But henceforth, we need everybody involved. We can win this thing. We can stop things. Look, we got a Secretary of Education who's a billionaire who thought that she could walk in and to become the secretary. But because of all of the massive demonstrations, things like this, it looks like she's not going to make it. So we can thank you for coming. God bless you.
It's to fit such a profile.